All right, all right, all right. Peace and power, elevation. Peace and power and elevation. This is Tiffany coming through here live in effect. And tonight's subject will be dealing with the questioning centered around, does culture drive human evolution more than genetics? So what I will be doing in this video, I'm going to be talking about the human evolution, and then I'm gonna get into what is culture, what is genetics, and I'm going to get into the article that deals with the human evolution and culture and give my point of view of, do I believe that that culture drives human evolution more than genetics, or if it's a combination of both. All right. So I'm gonna get into that. Peace, brother Chauncey. Thank you for coming through. All right. So one of the key things when we're talking about evolution, we're talking about the changes that takes place, that occurs, that happens over a period of time. So with human, there has been a lot of changes going on over the period of time. I mean, we done made the transition from being the archaic humans to being the Homo sapiens sapiens. All right, so let's do a recap. We know that the Homo sapien, which is the modern human, been around for approximately 300,000 years, approximately. Okay. There's not an exact calculation, there's not an exact number, but approximately. And then prior to that, there was the Homo erectus. And prior to that, there was Ardilopithecus. That was Australopithecus. That was the hominin. And there was many other humans that came along. All right. So to answer this question, let's look at what is culture and what is genetics. All right, so let's look at what is culture. Peace, brother Centavo. How you doing? So now, what is culture? Culture is an umbrella term which encompasses the social behavior and norms found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, art, laws, custom, capabilities, and habits of the individual in these groups. Humans acquire culture through the learning process of enculturation and socialization, which is shown by the diversity of cultures across society. And then it goes on to say that a cultural norm codifies acceptable conduct in society. It serves as a guideline for behavior, dress, language, and demeanor in situation, which serves as a template for expectation in a social group. Accepting only a monoculture in a social group can bear risk, just as single species can wither in the face of environmental change for lack of functional responses to change. Thus, in military culture, valor is counted a typical behavior for an individual, and duty, honor, and loyalty to the social group are counted as virtues or functional responses in the continuum of conflict. In the practice of religion, analogous attributes can be identified in a social group. All right, so now let's look at the understand how we understand culture is dealing with social behavior and norms in human society. Social behavior and norms in human society. Okay? That's how we understand culture. Now let's look at what is genetics. Because I'm going to get to the point. All right, just bear with me. What is genetics? So, genetics is a branch of biology concerned with the study of genes, genetic variation, heredity, in organism. All right. Then, if we go down, it says, though heredity had been observed for millennia, Gregor Mendel, Moravian scientist, and Augustine Fur, working in the 19th century in Brno, was the first to study genetics scientifically. All right, so Mendel studied trait inheritance patterns and the way traits are handed down from parents to offspring over time. He observed that organism pea plants inherit traits by way of the discrete unit of inheritance. This term, still used today, is a somewhat ambiguous definition of what is referred to as a gene. And then you go down, you see trace inheritance and molecular inheritance mechanism of genes are still primary principle of genetics in the 21st century, but modern genetics has expanded beyond inheritance to studying the function and behavior of genes. Gene structure and function variation and distribution are studied within the context of the cell, the organism, and within the context of population. Genetics have given rise to a number of subfields, including molecular genetics, epigenetics, and population genetics. Organism study within a broad field span the domains of life. All right, so it goes in example archaea, bacteria, and eukarya, etc. So basically, genetics is the branch of biology that studies the genes, okay, and that studies the genetic variation and heredity in organism. All right, so now we get that out the way. Culture deals with the social norm and behavior in a human society. Genetics deals with the genetic variation, genes, and the hereditary in the organism. Okay. So now I'm going to get to the article. So in this article, it says culture drives human evolution. Now, the article is going to explain why that culture drives human evolution. So this is coming from Science Daily. And this came out on June the 2nd of 2021. It says culture drives human evolution more than genetics. After conducting an extensive review of the literature and evidence of long-term human evolution, scientists Tim Warner and Zach Wood concluded that humans are experiencing a special evolutionary transition in which the importance of culture, such as learned knowledge, practice skills, is surpassing the value of genes as the primary driver of human evolution. And it goes on to say, culture is an underappreciated factor in human evolution, Warren said. Like genes, culture helps people adjust to their environment and meet the challenges of survival and reproduction. Culture, however, does so more effectively than genes because the transfer of knowledge is faster and more flexible than the inheritance of gene, according to Warren and Wood. Now, I'm going to highlight this statement right here. This is a key important point. Culture does more effectively than genes because the transfer of knowledge is faster and more flexible than the inheritance of genes. And it goes on to say that culture is a stronger mechanism of adaptation for a couple of reasons, Warren says. It's faster. Gene transfers occurs only once a generation, while cultural practices can be readily learned and frequently updated. Culture is also more flexible than genes. Genes transfer is rigid and limited to genetic information of two parents, while cultural transmission is based on the flexible human learning and effectively unlimited with the ability to make use of information from peers and experts far beyond parents. As a result, cultural evolution is a stronger type of adaptation than old genetics. All right, and then Warren, an associate professor of social ecological system modeling, and Wood, a postdoctoral research associated with the School of Biology and Ecology, have just published their findings in a literature review in the Proceeding of the Royal Society B, the flagship biological research journal of the Royal Society in London. And then I'm just going to go down here, and then I'm going to show you guys the other article. So culture has influenced how humans survive and evolve for millennia. According to Warren and Wood, the combination of both culture and genes have fueled several key adaptations in humans, such as reduced aggression, cooperative inclination, collaborative abilities, and the capacity for social learning. Increasingly, the researchers suggest humans' adaptation are still by culture and require genes to accommodate. That's wow, that's a fact. That's a fact. Then goes down to say, according to research, culturally organized groups appear to solve adaptive problems more readily than individuals through the compounding value of social learning and cultural transmission in groups. Cultural adaptation may also occur faster in larger groups than in small ones. With groups primarily driving culture and culture now fueling human evolution more than genetics, Warren and Wood found that evolution itself has become more group oriented. Now, the society as organism metaphor is not so metaphorical after all. This insight can help society better understand how individuals can fit into a well-organized and mutually beneficial system. All right, so this is the article from Science Daily. All right. Let's see. Somebody said, buy this book, family. Hypothalamously speaking, written by Uncle Suck. Purchase on. Okay. Thank you for the information, Uncle Suck. Thank you. I will check that out later. All right. So now let's get into the article here. So this is the original article that came out. Which is called Long-Term Gene Culture Co-Evolution and the Human Evolutionary Transition. All right, so these two authors who I read right in the previous article from Science Daily, they were the ones that wrote this journal here. And this came out in it was accepted on May 10th, 2021. Okay. So I don't have to go any further. But as you can see, this is a diagram. It says memory, expression, phenotype, genome, go down to phenotype, cultural inheritance, infer from expressed phenotype, memory, going down to phenotype, genome, and then genetic inheritance. So it's showing the differences between the two. So basically, it shows that the genetic inheritance only deal with the genome, but the cultural inheritance brings about not only the phenotypical, but also the memory. Okay. So, okay. So again, there's another diagram. I'm going to post this. I'm going to pull this up so y'all can see it. This is another diagram here. Okay. All right. And so this is the title, and this is the article, the journal that it was published from. All right. So, anyways, now get into all of this. What you see, ladies and gentlemen, regarding to the article about human evolution, culture, and genetics, that deals with the ideology of anthropology. So now, what is anthropology? Anthropology is the study of humanity in general. Okay, it's a general study of humanity. That's all anthropology is. So what this article is dealing with is the anthropological research. It deals with the anthropology. So you got the bioanthropology. You got the biological anthropology, and you got the cultural anthropology. So there's different categories of anthropology. All right. Now, anthropology is not really a big popular field of study. Okay, it's not very popular field of study, but it should be, but it's not. However, where I stand on my position is that both genetics and culture drive human evolution. Both genetics and culture drive human evolution equally. That's what I look at. That's what I see. Both genetics and culture drive human evolution. Now, however, it may seem like culture does play a lot more factor into the human evolution because of the ideas, the social norm, and social behavior. All right, sorry about that, you guys. But basically, yeah, you deal with social behavior and social norms. And in a culture, you have customs. So the key thing is, I do agree with that big aspect of information about culture. It is necessary. Culture is needed. Okay. It's needed because it keeps the productivity of humanity going. It keeps it brings more discipline to humanity. Imagine not having a culture and you just have genetics. If human had no culture or no foundation to stand on, then things would be more corrupted. You would have more organism killing one another. And organism would not really know how to function. They would not be very functional. So, in order to be more functional and continue on with the human evolution, culture has to play a role in this, especially in diets. It has to play a role. So that's why you got some places they have their own dietary custom, because based on their genetics, based on their genetic inheritance, they have to go by certain. They have to have a certain diet. Excuse me. They have to have a certain diet guidelines. They have to have a certain guidelines where they can follow to be able to make sure that they maintain and they keep a balanced diet. So they have to make sure that they have some form of strict diets. So whether it's the diet is based on the culture in itself, or if it's based on the religious ideology, because religion also plays an influence into culture. That's another reason why people get into religion, or there's another reason why religion was in creation, because it brings about the cultural standards, not just the spiritual aspect or the political aspect of it, but also the cultural standard of it. Peace, brother Vayasa. Yeah, so it brings about the cultural standard. If you don't have no type of cultural standards, then the human evolution will not continue. Okay? So that's the main thing. That's the key thing. And I do have some materials that you guys can look into about anthropology if you guys are interested. And again, with genetics, all you do is inheritance, the genes, meaning like the chromosomes, and what's in your genetic variation, how your gene operates. Also, your inheritance, meaning what you carry, what type of traits you have. So some people, like for us, African descended people, sickle cells is something that is very rapid in our community. So you'll find that there's a lot more African Americans that have sickle cells. Now, some of us don't have it, but some people do have it, and some people inherit those genes of sickle cells. All right. But now it does not do any good if you just have that genetics and you know you got a disease like sickle cell. So what do you do to be able to maintain and balance yourself? Well, that's where the culture comes in. That's where the dietary comes in, to keep it going, to keep those diseases from corrupting the body. And also communication, language. That's very important. That itself is a part of the culture. Because how are you going to be able to communicate with each other if you don't have language? If you don't have symbolism? Humans created all these things to be able to keep up with the productivity, to keep the human culture functioning. So we got to look at the ecology, which is the first thing. Ecology deals with how the organism have a relationship with their environment. So when you study how organisms relate to their environment, right? Then you got the egocentrism, then you got the sociocentrism, then you have the ethnocentrism. So egocentrism means, self-ideology, individual ideology. Then the sociocentrism means the group interaction, etc. And then based on that group interaction creates the culture center part, which is ethnocenter. So when they say that we live in an American culture, right? Yes, we do live in American culture. But within the American culture, there is a subculture. All right. There is a subculture because not everybody have the same cultural ideology. Everybody don't have the same cultural standards. All right. So just because we all consider to be American doesn't mean that we should not have a culture of our own that we can live off of. Because if everybody lived off of that one culture of America, we all would be the same, but we're not all the same. So for us Black people, primarily here in America, we have to have some type of cultural standards. So what our culture is creolized, and it has been synchronized, meaning that we not only have the American influence, the Western influence, but we got some Native American influences as well, as far as dish and stuff like that. The concept of barbecue, which is very popular in our community, that came from the Native Americans. They were one of the first ones that started this whole barbecue thing. We took on the custom. All right. So we incorporate some of the Native American culture. We incorporate some of the European culture, and we incorporate the African culture to blend in order for us to be able to survive in a system like this, in order for us to be able to maneuver around and be able to have some form of mechanism. So if we cannot be able to function without our ancestral culture, which is, if we can't be able to function in our in our culture, without the African principles, then we'll be totally out of zinc. We'll totally be outside. We'll just be lost. So we had to figure out a way how to function and how to adapt in this society. And so what our African ancestors did, they had to blend in the African tradition that was left of them into this American society. And that's how you got the Black culture. Right? That's how you got the Black culture, because they had to adapt into it, but they couldn't adapt into it the way the European did. And we have a certain type of diets. Why do we have certain type of diets? Because our genetics are different than our European counterparts and Asian counterparts. Our genetics are different. Most Black people are lactose intolerant. Most of us, what depends on what tribe you come from, we have certain type of genetics where we are faster, we are more creative in a sense. So a lot of people didn't do a lot of reading, but in this culture, reading is very important. But in the ancient time period, in the African culture, reading wasn't a big deal because they understood things orally, and they had hand-on experience. So a lot of times they did things based on hand-on experience. That's how they learned. They didn't just necessarily sit in the classroom and learn like this and watching the teacher all day. They had hand-on experience. So the teacher showed them how to do it, and they were participating. So yeah, culture does play a part in this. It helps. It keeps the human evolution going. It keeps the productivity in place. And the genetics just give us our function. We just function with our genetics. Our genetics is what regulates our blood cells, our traits, all of that. And in our genetics, we got the DNA. And the DNA tells everything about us and what's going on with us. So it's a combination of both. It's a combination of both. All right. No, barbecue came from West Africa is the root of the term buccaneers. Okay, well, my mistake. I apologize. Okay, which was basically black pirates and runaways, hence so much hate towards buccaneers. Okay, so I was that was a correction. My mistake. I thought that barbecue started, with the Native Americans here, but I was told that it came from West Africa. So my mistake on that. There was a correction on that. My mistake. All right. But I did not. I just learned something about the Buccaneers. I didn't know the Buccaneers were had something to do with West Africa. That's something I would have to look into. Natives didn't have cows or pigs to barbecue, which the most fundamental part, not just a fire or fire pit. Well, no, they didn't, but there was other animals out there. You had the buffaloes, you had deers. It was so many other animals. So yeah. They probably didn't have cows or pigs, but they ate other animals. Yep. But let me present you guys with some information that you guys can read into if you guys are interested in learning more about human evolution and anthropology, etc. So let me get some books up. Mm-hmm. All right, so this book is entitled, I'm gonna pull it up for y'all. This book right here is entitled Anthropology Appreciating Human Diversity. So this is by Conrad Philip Katak. Then I have another one. All right, A History of Anthropology by Thomas Highland Eckerson and Finn Shevert Nielsen. All right. And now I also want you guys to look into this. I got two more materials that I want to show you, then I'm finished. All right, so the title of this book right here is called Meat Eating and Human Evolution by Craig B. Stanford and Henry T. Bond. All right, so it goes into different cultures of how they consume meat and the human evolution. So don't get into this idea. And there's some people that I've seen that's been falsifying stuff as far as the culture of African descendant people, and they getting the information mixed up. So this is why people need to really get involved in studying about anthropology, because you'll get a better chance of learning more about cultural diversity and languages, social norm, behavior, practices, customs, etc. All right, so I have another one that I want to show you guys. Give me a moment. All right, and here's this book right here. I hope you guys can see it. Wait a minute. All right, so the title of this book called Human Evolution by Bernard Wood. Human Evolution by Bernard Wood. So that's another book that you guys can check out if you guys are interested in learning more about human evolution. All right. And so that's it. And Centavo, I mean not Centavo, but Vyasa put something up here where he says called Research Methods in Anthropology, Qualitative and Quantitative Approaches by H. Russell Bernard. Thank you for posting that up. All right, thank you for posting that up. All right. So with that being said, that's all I have for tonight. I thank you guys for watching this video. I thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So yes, to answer the question, does culture drive human evolution? Absolutely. It's a combination of both human evolution and human genetics. Okay? Genetics and culture both drives human evolution. You can't have one without the other. They have to work together because that's what makes the human human. That's what brings evolution. And we got to have culture. Because if we don't have culture and we don't have principles, we're just going to be a bunch of organisms just running around. So we got to have principle, and we have to have culture, and we have to have structure to keep the human evolution going. All right. So with that being said, you guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. And I have to go. All right. And I will talk to you guys later. So peace. Thank you.